Hey there, fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shirin.
And it is our, second to last week of February. Weirdly, have found ourselves in a vague, thematic sort of month, even though we technically didn't mean to at all, but it's just the way that things have fallen.
I love how we started off this year by being like, no more themes. We're not doing that anymore. We're better than this. We've grown up. And now we're like, so we're kind of in a theme. So I guess we'll just have a theme discussion.
I guess so. But it does feel relevant probably just because this month in general and everything else that we're talking about. So, hey, whatever. Why not? We did say it could happen still sometimes. And so
yeah. And like, as far as I'm concerned, February is just pink with red hearts. Like,
kind of. No, but honestly, genuinely, like, it's true because it does feel that releases at this time of year are like this. And so it lends itself well to discussions of romance in general and everything to do with it, really. So
exactly. Yeah. And while we're waiting for Bridgerton, it's taking for fucking ever to come out. We had to do something.
Next week, guys. Next week, we're gonna be able to finish off the season, so that'll be nice.
Can't wait.
I'm literally doing a watch through with Arthur right now of the first season.
Of the whole thing. Yeah.
We're most of the way through season 1. Actually, I think we only have a couple of episodes left. So
fun.
Yeah, he's into it enough that he's like, well, I don't understand what's going to happen with this. What's going to happen? I'm like, I'm not telling you. And he's like, oh, Megan. It's good.
Oh, fun.
It's good. I'm enjoying
it. There's one thing to enjoy a show or a movie, and there's something even more enjoyable about sharing that with someone that you love and them getting into it, and you're just like, yeah,
it's fun.
A good one.
You and I we did that in December with Heated Rivalry because I was like, Shirin needs to watch this show. I cannot believe she's not watched this show. And then I think it was easy because we went into it and I was like, no, she's gonna be obsessed with it. If she doesn't like it, I would be shocked.
Oh no. Like, you kept telling me about it and I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's like good. And like, then after I'm like,
I could tell from your reaction. I was like, no, you don't understand. You will, like, but you don't,
okay,
right?
Whatever, Megan. Like, it's another show. Yeah, okay.
You're like, I guess it's the romance show.
Everybody I see now, I'm like, have you watched Heated Rivalry?
I'm sure you must have some people who are like, yes, of course. You must have at least a couple.
You know what? Like, I've more come across people who have not heard of it, or they've heard of it and they haven't watched it. And so I've just influenced like 5 different people to watch it.
You're like, well, you're crazy, so maybe start that.
I know one of my coworkers made me laugh because she's a hockey mom, but it's like a generational hockey thing, is my understanding. So like, her husband played hockey, her brother played hockey, and still does. Like, her brother was like semi-professional.
Okay, yeah.
She still plays hockey. She's got her girls play hockey, and her son's girl. Anyway, all of her kids play hockey.
Yeah.
So they're all into hockey, right? Mm-hmm. So I was talking to her and I'm like, have you watched Heated Rivalry? And she's like, actually, she's like, it's funny you mentioned that. She's like, I started watching the first episode, and she's like, and I was like afraid my kids were gonna walk in on me and thinking that I was like watching porn by myself.
Hockey porn?
So she's like, I had to like turn it off until I can find a quiet moment. I'm like, but you must watch it.
With multiple kids, that must be difficult. So yeah, I can imagine that she's gonna have to wait a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was very funny.
That is great. That's so great. But yes, that's exactly what it is. It's just like this fun time where we're getting to just share different, like, these things that we enjoy with people, and I love doing that. I find it so fun.
Love.
Yeah. And in that exact vein, today we're going to continue the romance discussions, because why not? Sure, hey, why not? And we're going to talk about some of our preferred or favorite, like, micro-tropes in romance, and maybe just like, I'm sure some people consider some of what's a micro-trope for me is like a trope for them, whatever. Just in general, maybe some of the slightly less common ones that you come across, kind of thing. We're going to chat about that a little bit and get into some of the recurring themes and like little tropes like this that you do see that I think you don't realize you see in multiple stories until you've read several books and you're like, hey, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
I think I have a preference for this.
I have an awakening.
Pretty much. Before we get started with all of that, though, because we should do what's on our nightstand, because I don't think we've done one in a while.
No, we haven't.
We really haven't. What's on your nightstand, Shirin?
Sorry, my turn. Sorry, I was just double checking the title.
She's like, what's it called?
Oh
Do you ever do that? Or you ever like, what order do the words go in the title of the book that I'm reading?
Oh, all the time, especially with an ARC like this one
Mm-hmm.
is. So HarperCollins sent us an ARC called To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast, not Breakfast, that I
You keep just saying it too quickly.
I keep glancing at the title and being like, hee hee, breakfast. I don't know if that's a pen name. If it's not a pen name, I'm so sorry, Brooke Fast. You must be so used to that joke being made, and it is not funny.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be so annoying.
But no, it's an ARC. It's dropping on March 3rd. So going to be getting my review to you ASAP to put up on the website.
Very soon. So that'll be out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Wow. It's very good. It's already had a lot of hype. So it's basically kind of it's a dystopian romantasy kind of. So it's got a lot of elements of like, it feels like Hunger Games mixed with like some that I'm getting like a lot of a feel of like almost like Throne of Glass. Like there's because there's a lot about a prison in this one. So it's very much centered around a prison. Okay. So a lot of these like, romantasy books and fantasy books that we like, there's a lot of the time a prison. So like I go back to like Leigh Bardugo's Six of Crows. There's like a whole thing about prison in that one. There is in Throne of Glass. There is in, I believe, Crescent City, but don't quote me on that. I think I might be wrong. Anyway, so this one is very much centered around a prison. It's about main character named Raven who, anyway, her brother gets arrested. And so it's a whole thing. So far it's really good. And excited to share it with the world. What about you, Meaghan?
Since we haven't done this in a while, I've read like a bunch of books, but anyway, most recently, one that I finished recently and then one that I'm currently reading that is an ARC actually. So a non-ARC that I read recently is How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shaylee Thompson. This is going to be one of my favorite books of the year, and I can already tell that this is going to go on my top 5. I saw how much
you were posting about it on our socials. I'm like, I wrote
a feature. I wrote a feature article about it. Yeah. It's on the website at fullybooked.ca if you want to go check it out. I didn't give too many spoilers in it or anything, but if you want something fun, it is the literal perfect mashup of horror and rom-com together in one thing, in one fell swoop, that follows a woman who's basically obsessed with horror, specifically slashers and rom-coms. She has like an affinity for both of them. And her friend, her best friend who she lives with, they've been going to like different like dating events and stuff in the city. They live in Brooklyn, and they go to a speed dating event. During the event, the lights go out at one point, and when the lights come back on, the main character, her name's Jamie, the date sitting across from her has been murdered violently. Oh, shit. And they quickly find themselves, the whole group quickly finds themselves in the situation of there being someone who turns out to be basically a serial killer who must basically be an attendee more than likely at the event, who has locked everyone in and is slowly picking them off. And so Jamie needs to use pretty much all of the knowledge that she has of every slasher she's ever watched in her life, because she needs to figure out who the final girl is and who's being targeted and how to stop as many people as possible from being moited
for you.
Literally, I was like, I feel like this book was for me specifically. It's so good. It's very funny, very like meta and self-aware, obviously, because I don't see how you could write a story like this without being that way. It's got a really fun mashup. There is a romance that's part of the plot line that's fun as well. It's just got it's like the perfect mix of everything. I read it while I was on vacation too, which probably helps because it was so fun to just you just go with it. So I loved it. I was obsessed with it. So go read it. If you like the kinds of things that I like, go read it. And at the moment, I am also reading an ARC that we received from Penguin Random House called Spoiled Milk by an author named Avery Curran. I believe this is a debut, if I'm not mistaken. It's being published on March 10th. It is set in the late 1920s at a boarding school in England, and it follows a really bizarre sequence of events. It's it's an all-girls boarding school, and it follows a really strange sequence of events where one of the students, who's like one of the most popular girls in like the upper years, dies sort of mysteriously one night. It's unclear whether or not she was killed or whether there was an accident essentially that occurred. The main character, who was her best friend, starts to suspect that there's more going on, and she initially suspects that someone at the school killed her friend. But when her and their other group of friends, basically the rest of the girls who they spent their time with, start looking into it, they kind of start to realize that there might actually be something supernatural occurring at the school,
right.
the more that they dig into it. So there's like multiple kinds of layers to it. I'm very, very interested to see kind of like what
Where this is going.
like what the answer actually turns out to be, because there's like quite the mystery that's been sort of unraveling. Now it's like multiple students are being targeted and stuff, and they're being kind of secluded at the school to a degree, like cut off from the rest of the world. So I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? Is there like an entity present? Like, it's unclear right now. So I'm really curious to kind of see where it's going. I really like the way that the characters are written, because the girls all feel they have very distinct personalities, and they all feel like they're very different from each other, but kind of very of the time period as well, in a way, which is cool. So
that's cool. And since you got 2 nightstands, well, I'm going to shout out another one that I got. It's another ARC, and it's called Breathing is How Some People Stay Alive. It's a collection of short stories, so I'll have another review up for that one, because that one also drops on March 3rd.
Everything at the same time.
You know, but this one is really interesting. So I love a collection of short stories personally. It's just not something that I typically pick up. Like when I go to a bookstore, like when I've been in school and like studying literature, every time here's a book of short stories, I'm like, fucking A, yes. Like I love short stories. You get right into them, you get out of them, you know? These ones so far are pretty interesting. They're giving me like Love, Death, and Robots vibes / like Black Mirror vibes. And it's kind of all centered around like each story is centered around a main character whose psyche is being tested by like outside forces that are kind of out of their control. So like for example, the first one is about a woman who has been told her entire life that she is too large to swim. She's too big. She can't swim. She'll sink. And her father she lives in this like world where they have these robots. And so her father buys her one of these robots. And he tells her that it's her husband. And so this robot is her husband for all intents and purposes. But as time has gone on, the robot has become even more like very, very controlling. It has started to like fight against its like factory settings to like take care of her. It's become very abusive. Anyway, the ending's pretty good in the first short story. Like it's pretty funny. And then the second one, same thing. It's like a mother of a son who's super ungrateful towards her. He like treats her like crap. And it's just kind of like how breathing is how some people stay alive. Like that, you know, like it's just like breathing through the situation, and it's like this hardship. And then at the end of the story, you're like, yes. You know, it's like you're taking a breath at the end of it. So it's really good. It's well done.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah. Look at us, just rife with so many good things at the beginning of the year.
So lucky to be sent all of these ARCs. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, because you text me about the other one that's on the way, and I'm like, wow, bloody hell, I don't even need to buy books anymore.
No, not really.
So lucky.
We're very, very fortunate with that. And we've got some like really great ones that are coming out this year. This is so exciting. And there's like a ton of cool stuff happening. But yeah. Okay. So let's get into things. So I mean, I guess, you know, I'm sure most people are aware, and especially if you're here, I'm sure that you're aware. But if you're not for some reason, obviously, now tropes, just as a rule in general, are not specific to romance. It's language that's used a lot for romance stories as a rule, but tropes themselves can repeat in any different type of genre, right? Like, you know, there can be a multitude of different things, whether you're reading science fiction or horror or or basically, and like fantasy, anything else really.
Yeah.
There are tons of tropes that repeat themselves on a regular basis. They're just recurring themes or types of characters, like, stock characters to a degree, like multiple different kinds of like circumstances, for instance, that the characters find themselves in, all sorts of things. So if we're looking on the romance side of things, obviously, major tropes that you have are things like enemies to lovers arcs, right? Or rivals to lovers, or things that you see on a regular basis.
Friends to lovers.
Friends to lovers as well. Second chance romance is something that you see on a pretty regular basis. Like there are like a lot of ones like that are kind of big, but then
those are kind of the main ones, aren't
they're
they?
Yeah.
Rom-com.
Kind of, yeah. And like maybe like opposites attract, I guess.
Oh, yeah,
kind
that
of
one
fall
too.
into
Yeah,
there
that's
too.
a big
That's
one. Yep.
That's a pretty big one. And then I find beyond that is sort of where you start to get into the ones. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely some that are also like repeated pretty heavily, and most of them are to a degree. Like eventually there's only so many new things you're going to come up with, right? Like when you're writing a novel like this, it's going to have a formula to it, at least to a certain degree, which is also kind of what we want with our romance. Let's be real.
Well, I mean, that's kind of why we, like, at the end of the day, a romance is a romance, right? So we're like looking for that like feeling that gets invoked of like,
I do want the happy ending. Like, I don't want it to be depressing. Sorry.
Well, yes, but I think actually that's an interesting point, because I think that really what we're looking for is that, like, I don't know how to say it other than that like swooping sensation of like the ramp up to them meeting, and then regardless of what the trope is, but it's that feeling of like you put yourself in the shoes of the character, and then the emotions that it invokes, because one way or another, even if you've never been in love yourself, when you read about it, like it invokes those feelings. And so even if it's a horribly sad ending, it's not a happy ending, like it's the middle bit, that emotional kind of, I don't know, ramp up that we're looking for.
The ramp up, the anticipation that you experience as the reader, and then even and like the level of catharsis almost that occurs, right? Whether to your point exactly, whether the ending is happy or not, like most of the time, I think in more modern settings, we're kind of expecting like a happier ending versus a sad one,
aren't we? Which is interesting since we reviewed Wuthering Heights last week. Was it last week?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I know you hated it, but like,
I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I've been inundated, I think is what it is, just between like, everyone's opinions everywhere, and like my own, like, going off and like really reminding myself of what this entire story is about. If you liked it, that's totally fine. I don't care at this point, because I'm like, what difference does it make to me? No one cares about my opinion. So
I don't know. Some people do,
I guess. Maybe someone does. I'm just saying, in like the grand scheme of the world, like I'm allowed to have my opinion in the same way everybody else is allowed to have theirs. So
yeah, no, for sure. And so like it just got me thinking so much about like what is it about romance that we go for, and like even when the characters are awful and you can't relate to them at all, it's that ramp up, it's that emotion that gets invoked, and the will they won't they, that's another trope, by the way, the will they won't they.
That's a big, that's one. I think that can almost fall into the micro-trope, but it's definitely something that you see repeated on a pretty regular basis. So yeah, I mean, I've just listed like a few of the ones that are for me like a little bit more micro-trope-ish. They're not in every single story necessarily, or they're not in the vast majority of them. It's just something that you do see. I don't have names for all of them, because some of them are just like, that thing when this is
one there where someone's in a speed dating situation and someone gets murdered.
Then somebody gets murdered and they have to solve their way out, and then they also have like a romance. There's almost like a love triangle in that story that's happening at the same time. It's great.
Another trope, love triangle.
I'm not a big fan of a love triangle, generally speaking.
No, I'm not either. It annoys me.
No, that's it. I'm not. I have a couple of them that I wrote down that I'm like, I don't really like this one very much. I just forgot to write love triangle, but I'm not a huge fan of them. They're okay, and they can be okay when they're like not done in a toxic way. I don't know how else to describe it.
But almost, I think it's because we lived through. We are the Twilight generation and the Divergent and the Hunger Games and the, like, you listed, it's in there. Like name it, it's in there.
So those kinds of ones I'm like not a big fan of. But I mean, I feel like this is one. This is, to be fair, this is everywhere. It might not count as a micro trope, but only one bed is definitely one that I'm always like, that's fine. Forced proximity because there's only one bed. Yep.
Oh yeah,
It always works for me.
they love an only one bed. I was just reading a book with that in it.
I
not
like an
long
only
ago.
one bed. I don't
You
care.
do?
I
Yeah. I
do.
mean, it certainly propels the story forward.
That's kind of it. I think like when it does happen, I'm like, oh, good. Okay, we're getting somewhere with this now because we have no
Oh, there's only one
choice.
bed.
Heyo. I know we're going somewhere with that. Which, like, to be fair, it's probably not a micro trope, so I'm cheating. But like, it's because it's in a ton of stuff. But also, it's just like a fun one to have.
It's kind of like a trope within a trope,
It is
right?
a
Like
bit.
it's like a literary device used to kind of
Yes.
move the story forward.
Yes.
More than anything. I'm trying to think what it was that I was just reading with only one bed. Oh, I think it was People We Meet on Vacation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That definitely happens. And it works. I find that it works best, or that's a trope that works best when the banter between the characters is very good, whether it's an enemies to lovers or like friends to lovers, whatever the case may be, whatever the main sort of plot line might be.
Yeah.
If there's good banter between the characters, then
It's always funny.
it's so much more fun when that
Mm.
happens. Regardless, I find, in my opinion too, regardless of what point we're at in the romance of the story, like whether we're closer to the beginning and we've not quite like crossed any kind of threshold yet, or if we've been, or if we're like, further, and this propels things much further with regards to like the actual romance between the characters, because it can be fun and awkward, or it can obviously lead to like other aspects of the story, of course, but
Yeah.
like, I'm fine with it either way. Yeah.
I do like an only one bed. It's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I see where this is going.
You're like, oh, good, okay.
Oh, good.
You're just like settled in, like, okay, I know
Right,
where we're
like you
going
just kind of go, oh, okay, I'm not. I was gonna put this down after this chapter,
now.
but
You
I think
just
I'll just keep going.
scooch down into
Don't
your
mind
chair.
if I just scooch right in here. Yeah.
So another one that I had that I don't know why, I guess I find them like unrealistic in the sense that no one does this, but probably because of it, because it's like when I'm reading romance, I'm largely expecting kind of an unrealistic sort of fantasy story to a degree, in my opinion. That's like mostly what you're getting with it, is anything that's like a bet or a pact or like a wager
Oh yeah.
between the two characters. I'm not talking like a wager a la like She's
Okay.
All That kind of thing. I'm
Okay.
talking about
My
between.
mind went to what the hell was that book called with Tessa and Hawden?
No, not that. So
Okay.
not After is what you're
Okay.
thinking
Yeah.
of. Yeah. God, those fucking books. Anyway,
Oh man. Yeah.
not that kind of bet, or I should specify, not that kind of bet or pact or wager. More one of like a deal that's struck between the two romantic leads with each other for something, whether it's like a pact to be like, oh, we're gonna do this thing together and we're not gonna fall in love, don't worry about it, or it's
Yeah.
gonna be like we're going to, or if it's a pact, like a deal that leads to like, oh, we're gonna do like the fake dating thing
Yeah.
and help each other out for XYZ reason, or I'm going to beat you at this particular thing that leads to like them spending more time together, whatever the case may be. I always find those fun because normally if you take away the ones that are horrible, like After and like those kinds of
Yeah,
things
but
where
those
it's like
don't count because it's not between the characters, right?
that's
Like
it.
I think
Yeah.
what you're getting at is like a deal or a pact or something between the two main characters
Yes.
that end up it's in the interest of benefiting both of them or at least one of them, and then they unexpectedly fall in love as a result of it.
Exactly. Because I find that trope leads to another one that I like, which is just like a fun, cute little one that I find that I'm like, oh, that's cute when that happens, is the, like kiss to like prove a point or to
Oh
distract
yeah.
somebody or whatever. But then of course it continues on for much longer than it would because they're like,
Yes.
oh shit, okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's chemistry. See, I
Yeah.
find that one only works on screen because when I read that in stories, it annoys me more than anything. Like
Really?
when it's
Oh,
on the page,
interesting.
I'm just like, okay, well, obviously this was gonna happen, and then like, and because it's like normally it's from one of the characters' POVs,
Yeah.
and so you're kind of getting it's either them being like, oh my God, I didn't realize I felt this way. Where you're just kind of, as the reader, you're like, really,
You didn't
really,
realize.
really. you've been calling them hot for the last 6 chapters, you know?
Funny. So it's just like a fun, I don't know, it's kind of a fun one. I think I'm okay with it, whether it's on page or on screen. Personally, it doesn't bother me either way. And then the other one that I had that I'd written down, again, there's no names for these. It's just me figuring them out, where I'm like, that thing,
that thing that happens.
Yeah. The other one that I have written down is not necessarily just like the male main character, because sometimes you see this in like queer romances and things like that too. But the one romantic lead of the two, who, this is often the male character if we're honest, but the one of the two of them who is like, disinterested in anything to do with like romance or romantic relationships until they meet and spend time with like the one person. I'm always like, that's cute, guys.
Yeah.
Cute.
That's cute. As long as it's not done in a toxic manner.
No.
That can quickly turn into, I can change him.
Yeah, not that shit. And it's just like, how even when you get into like, if you get into like the spicy aspects of things, right? I'm all fine if they want to do like the dom kind of thing in the spicy parts only.
Yeah.
But outside of those, I'm going to need like golden retriever level cute. Like, don't give me anybody who's like all gross and possessive and just like other men can't talk to you.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, no,
I have no patience.
You've lost me with that. I'm like, no, that's dumb and I hate it. So
no. I like the some of the ones that I like are like, for example, when the two characters are like they're on like a quest, or they're in a work situation or something, where they're both kind of generally disgruntled by the situation, and the girl is just kind of like annoyingly like quirky and stuff, and the guy can't help but like fall in love with her because it's like he's been forced into this situation through work, and it's like, oh, she's adorable but annoying.
Yeah, I feel like that feeds into like a rivals to lovers sort of, but in a fun way.
Yeah,
especially if it's in like a work situation, or like that's it. They have to like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They have to like do something together. I don't mind it, as I'm cool with that, as long as she's not like manic pixie dream girl quirky.
Oh yeah, like no, again, toxicity goes both ways, people. Like it's not just like male toxicity, like there's female toxicity.
Oh, definitely. Well, Yeah, for sure. It can happen on both ends of the characters, right? So that's it.
What do you think about these? I mean, we just talked about one. Like there's like an emerging I don't know, subgenre of romance, of like horror romance, or like serial killer romance or something.
Oh. I mean, I've read a few that are like in that darker kind of side of things. I'm okay with them only when it's funny. I need it to like not take itself too seriously. So if we're on the darker, and I know I've talked about this before, but if we're on the dark romance end of things, and we're talking like one of the two of them is like a murderer, or if a murder happens to happen and like all of the two characters are involved in it in some capacity, I really, really need it to be funny. Because if it's not funny, I'm just like,
well, if it's not funny, then like the whole tone is completely off, isn't it? It's kind of like, it's like, girl, run.
No, that's it. So I can't do that. I need it to be funny. I need there to be something funny within it. I need it to not be super, super serious. I need it to be like a Butcher and Blackbird thing. I need there to be serial killers who are doing their thing, but every aspect of like the story is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, like it's very sarcastic, and it's definitely not being like super serious, even though there are quite serious topics that are covered well throughout the course of like, that full trilogy, for instance. But it's just, I can't have it be 100% serious the entire time, because if it is, I'm just like, oh no. No, I don't want to be here.
Get me out. Eject.
Yeah, no thank you.
I think that like overall, kind of going back to my earlier comment about like Twilight and like Divergent and like Hunger Games and stuff, it feels like we're kind of moving away from like the toxic tropes a little bit, or attempting to, because it seems like, collectively we have a little bit less patience, a little bit less, romanticization of this type of romance, if you will.
I think
And I think it's good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're doing that, and I guess I don't know necessarily, like, because there are so many different
Oh,
books,
there's so many.
so many romance subgenres out there that I don't know that we're necessarily fully moving away from it. But I
Mm,
do think that we have a much better, not everybody, but especially maybe because we're older now and we grew up with these stories, we have a much better level of self awareness about it now. And
yeah.
so even if we are reading it, we're not affected by it in the same way. And I know that that's probably like an age thing to a degree, right? Like,
Mm,
if I'm thinking of like you and I were in our 30s and
mhm.
we were teenagers when we read things like Twilight and The
Yeah.
Hunger Games and all of those books. So we thought about them in different ways and they affected us in different ways.
Yeah.
Whereas now, it's very easy to read those. And I think if I were to straight up read something that had like the exact vibes like Twilight, I probably wouldn't finish it because I'd be like, ew, ugh,
Yeah, like, this
terrible.
man is toxic, he is controlling, like, it's
Yeah.
not normal to be with somebody like this when you're in high school.
Yeah, it's not sexy, like, it's creepy and weird, and I hate it, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that you're right. I think that, there's a combination maybe of all of those things happening. We're all not really interested in those stories as much anymore. And if they, to a degree or with shades of those kinds of things, do come up, we're all just kind of like reading them, and just being like, oh, here's the biggest grain of salt possible that I could be adding to this too. Because obviously this is ridiculous and nobody would ever, in real life, no one would ever find this attractive. It's horrible. So,
It's I think it's just shocking, like, looking back, we've had a whole episode, I think, about this, about how all roads lead back to Twilight on a
oh,
lot of these,
100%.
like, toxic, romances that were, like, very popular. 50 Shades of Grey, like you just mentioned, like, shades of, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, 50 Shades of Grey,"
Really
you
hate
know?
that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, that one too, and I'm like, looking back now, and I know that it is because we're a bit older, but I think also, like, collectively as society, we've kind of moved away from, giving permission to this type of behavior,
True. Oh, yeah.
especially with, everything going on right now, like, haha, Andrew got arrested
Oh,
today,
oh my God.
you
Yeah.
know
The day that we're recording this.
yeah. So I think everything that we're seeing in the news and like everything in our media at this point, we have a lot less bandwidth, a lot less patience.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's just to the point where the minute that I read anything about like toxicity, whether it be male or female,
Mhm.
I just have no patience or time for it because I'm like, why? Why are we still writing about this and trying to romanticize it? It is not good. It's encouraging the wrong type of behavior. And also, like, some people can be influenced by
Oh,
it. So why are
100%.
we putting it out there?
Especially when there's, like, maybe a slightly younger audience that
Hmm.
picks it up as well, right? Depending on the type of story that it is and the characters and things like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I do, and, it's good because romance has such a huge space in the book world now,
Yeah.
whether it's in any other genre that you can think of.
Oh, it's
Obviously, like,
all over
fantasy
it.
is,
Yeah.
fantasy's massive, but even in, like, just, like, general, like, contemporary romance and things like that, and in because it's just part of life as a rule. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of us go through, we have relationships, we fall in and out of love with people. There are all kinds of things that happen to all
One
of
of
us.
those
So
things that unites all of us, right?
absolutely. So I think with that in mind, multiple different other types of stories will often have at least a vague kind of romance plot line or like, sub
Mm,
storyline to a degree, like
it's
some sort
true.
of plot line for the characters at some point. Whether, it's in a positive or a negative way, whatever the case may be, like there is some form of romance very frequently throughout the course of these types of stories of any sort, really. So I think it's good now that because this romance as a subgenre takes up so much of the book space in every capacity, it's good that we're not seeing quite as many of these types of stories anymore,
Mm,
which is
mm.
nice.
I agree with you because and I will say that like when I started to see like romance inserting itself into a lot more genres, so like I take like the romantasy genre, which has
Yeah.
now become like its whole like own
Oh, yeah.
category.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas before it used to be like, oh, you've got fantasy, high fantasy, and there might be like a mini romance in the middle. Like I think of like what's his name? like Aragorn and Arwen in like the Lord of the Rings, you know, like it's kind of like a side plot that is not central, but now it's very much central. And I remember the first time I was reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, I was reading it and I'm like, this guy's a little bitch. Like I thought we were moving away from this, you know, like I thought we weren't doing this anymore. And then of course you see kind of Rhysand come in, and then his character, and it kind of cleans that up. So I would say that at first when I started seeing more romance inserting itself into other genres, I was a little worried that we were going to have a bit of a Twilight situation, like Twilight 2.0. But I'm very glad to see that authors are kind of taking it's almost like they're re-educating almost on a lot of these things
in some cases. In some cases they definitely are, but I feel like fantasy is a really good example of that kind of thing, largely because also, you know, but if you think about it, all of those like high fantasy types of things before that were the most published and the most written were written by men.
100%.
So you know, the female characters tended to be less featured in those. Their opinions were less valued in them very often. They weren't necessarily like the strong, like lead characters in the story per se. They were side characters very often. And so all of those aspects of the story weren't the main focus. And so obviously, you know, there's still plenty of high fantasy out there in spite of what people seem to think, in spite of what the internet tells you. There's tons of high fantasy out there that doesn't necessarily have like a very strong like romance subplot in any capacity. So you can find it, no problem if you want to. But I think we're just seeing such a huge influx of this because it's really female authors that are dominating the market at this point in so many different genres, whether it's in fantasy, in romance, YA stuff, like it's like female authors are everywhere, even like mysteries and thrillers and stuff like that. You tell me like all the bestsellers right now, they're all women. They're all women.
I know.
They're all Lisa Jewell and Frida McFadden and Ruth Ware and all women.
It's crazy. It's crazy, like the shift. But then that's how we're seeing like an emergence of like thrillers that are centered around romance, right?
True.
Like Frida McFadden is a perfect example who uses, you know, kind of a stereotypical romance and then kind of flips it into like where you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it makes it something nuts bananas, obviously.
Yeah. Exactly. And that is actually, when we're talking about micro-tropes, I quite enjoy that one.
The Cuckoo Nuts Bananas thriller, but also romance.
Yeah, it's really funny. I find like because you're kind of chugging along thinking that you're on some ride, and then you realize that you're actually on a roller coaster, and you're like, oh shit,
how the hell did I get here? Ooh, weird. Where am I right now? Yeah, it's true. It is kind of fun. I guess before we wrap things up, are there any? I mean, we talked about the love triangle part. Are there any tropes that you can think of that you don't like seeing repeated?
I would say I get a little fatigued with the will they, won't they? Okay. Especially because like if it's done like well enough that, you know, you're only on the will they, won't they for like one will they and one won't they.
Sure.
It's when you're on like the 14th one that you're like, okay, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, no. that I wholeheartedly agree. I hate that when it's again, to your point, like if it happens like once throughout the course of the novel while I'm reading it, cool. Yeah, fine. You know, like we're not too sure where we're going with this. Okay, great. But like, no, not if we do it. And then we're like, oh, this has happened and now we can't, but oh, we can, but now we can't. I'm like, okay,
it's like, oh, I stopped caring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably be the one. Makes sense. I will say that the other one that I really need to take a stab at, no pun intended, is the one that we just talked about, the whole like serial killer lovers thing. Very, very sub genre at this point. But I haven't read those ones yet, but you thoroughly enjoy them.
They're so
you know what? Overall, when you really, really, really like a book, I tend to like the book too. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's it. Probably not in the same way, but it's just I think in the case of something like Butcher and Blackbird, like the Ruinous Love trilogy, it'll just be a question. It's the banter between the characters and stuff. It's also like they're doing these things like they're nothing to do with like the relationship between the characters in these books is like them how do I put this? Like them being insane or them trying to murder the other person. They're not really doing that. They're like falling in love in like a funny rom-com-y, very funny way. But it's just that they're like, hey, we're both serial killers. Whoops.
My day job is killer.
Who knew? Yeah. So it's that kind of thing. So that does make it more fun. I think if I had to pick, I've got two that I was trying to like think through like different tropes that I see repeated that I'm like, oh, this gets on my nerves. I don't like it. So if I have to pick, I've got two that I don't like. One of them is I don't mind an age gap, but not a huge age gap between characters.
Yeah, no.
When they're like, whatever, oh, I'm 8 years older, I'm 10 years older. I'm like, okay, whatever, no big deal. But when they're like,
how old they are.
Correct. Also, yes, true. It depends. Like, is she just 18? Because I fucking hate that shit too. But when it's like, you know, I'm, I don't know, 25 and you're 35 kind of thing, like that, I'm like, okay, whatever, cool, whatever. I don't care. When the ones that are like, oh, I'm 22 and he's 46, I'm like, nope, I have to go.
No. You could be his daughter.
Yeah, I hate that shit. I can't do at all. And so when I do see it start to happen, I'm like, I have to go. Bye. Okay. I didn't realize that this guy was this old in this book. I hate this. And I very often, I just won't finish them. Or if I do, I'm like,
you're like, I just didn't enjoy that.
Because then when they're like straight romance too, so often when there's like a huge age gap, they get into the sexy shit and then they start calling him daddy. And I'm like, oh, I have to go. Ugh.
Where do you find these books?
Oh, they're everywhere. There's so many of them. And I'm like, ew, yuck. Okay, no, I don't like that. It's not for me. I know it's for some people. It's not for me. I don't like it. And the other one that I will say that I'm seeing less of now, because I've noticed a lot of people have cited this as being really irritating, is a third act breakup. I fucking hate that. I find it so irritating when they have that, like in the third act, something happens that causes them to break up, but then they get back together right at the end. Because it's normally something that's shoehorned in that you're just like, like if we had communicated slightly better with each other, this wouldn't have been a problem. And I hate that.
It's usually like, I see what you mean. It's like something that happened earlier on in the novel that seemed like it wasn't that important. And now all of a sudden it's become like the thing that like ruins the love of your life. And you're like, oh, come on. Like I find those hard to believe too. Yes, I hadn't thought of those ones. I agree, because you're just like, no, I just went with you on this whole journey where you like fell in love with this person, like head over heels without a doubt. And because they told one lie at the beginning, now you're like, you're a liar. I can't trust you. I'm like, oh, stop.
Yeah, like I feel like this is almost always the case when this happens. Again, if it's done well in the sense that there's a really good reason, like that's been well written for the breakup to happen, I'm like, okay, fine, sure. I can just truck along with this. It's fine. But if it is one stupid ass thing from the beginning that the character finds out about and is like, no, I can't be with you now, blah. But then 5 minutes later, I'm going to change my mind. I'm like, no, sorry. No, I'm just annoyed now.
I wouldn't want to be with that person just on the fact that they can't get their principles straight.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like either I'm a liar and because I omitted one tiny fact and apparently that's a make or break, or now you don't care if I lied. Like, no, which one is it?
Which one is it? That's it. Don't be so wishy-washy. Make up your mind. Yeah. Anyway, there are, a bazillion and a half tropes and micro-tropes particularly in romance, but everywhere really, in every genre that you can find if you go looking for it. So, I mean, I'd definitely like to know what people's favorites and least favorites are for sure. You can let us know over on our socials at fullybookedca, where we are everywhere. And you can check out the website, as mentioned earlier in the episode, at fullybooked.ca. Shirin's obviously going to have a couple of reviews coming out very soon. I just have one that was published recently for The Half-Hearted Queen by Charlie N. Holmberg, which is the second novel in a duology that we had received that I really enjoyed both books in that series. It's a romantasy, very slow burn. Really liked the world building, really liked the characters in this one. It was very cool. So that was really nice to be able to kind of like finish that up and close the loop. I love that I got the second book. I was like, yes, now I get to know.
I like a duology. It like wraps things up very quickly.
I know. It's nice. It's just like nice and concise. And I appreciate it. Duology, a trilogy on occasion, those are good for me. So anyway, feel free to go check all of that out at fullybooked.ca. But until next week, guys, keep on reading. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thanks, everyone.